It is after Christmas, but before all the school and activities start up again. We are enjoying the slow season and also starting to get things back in order around our house. I am Melissa from the blog appletreeonthecorner.com, where I share about food from scratch, family meals, and rhythms of home. We have a family of 6, and today I am just getting the basics around the house reset to make cooking for the rest of the week easier. I just fed my sourdough starter with fresh milled wheat, and I am now making one of our favorite salad dressings with olive oil, apple cider vinegar, yellow mustard, sugar, salt, paprika. You can find the recipe for this at appletreeonthecorner.com. Since it is a busy day getting things just reset in the kitchen, I am going ahead and starting an easy lunch so that we have food ready when everybody's hungry. As a family of 6, my people are hungry all the time. So I am just getting a little bit of meat defrosted. I found out that if you put a pound of meat in the microwave for 2.5 minutes, it will be defrosted. So meat ready to cook with is never more than 2.5 minutes away. I am also getting some brown rice going into my Instant Pot. I use some better than bouillon to make a chicken broth for the liquid, and I have found that putting the directions right on the container where I keep my rice makes it so much easier to make brown rice when we decide we want that. Several years ago, we started trying to switch to whole grains, and while I don't like whole wheat taco shells, I do love brown rice. So making brown rice taco bowls is something that's been a family staple the last few years for us. All right, and now that my meat is defrosted, I am just going to break it up in my skillet. One of the reasons I think that tacos are so popular is because you can make it without a recipe. So I'm just browning my meat, and I will add a little bit of taco seasoning. Think about a tablespoon of taco seasoning per pound of meat is a pretty good combination. Okay, now that I have lunch ready to go whenever we need it, I am going to start making cinnamon rolls. And I find that these actually we won't eat till Sunday, so that's several days away. But when I'm behind in the kitchen and catching up, I find it incredibly encouraging to do something in advance. So you're making something ahead, and it helps me not feel like I'm just playing catch up all the time. So I am working on making my dough for my sourdough whole grain, freshly milled cinnamon rolls here. The recipe should be on my blog soon if it's not yet, but I just do 1 cup starter, 1/2 cup of lukewarm water, 1/4 cup of orange juice, 1/4 cup of sugar, 1 large egg, 4 tablespoons of either butter, or today I'm using coconut butter, 3 cups of fresh milled whole wheat, which would be 2 cups wheat berries, 1/2 cup of rolled oats, 1/4 cup of milk, 1.5 teaspoons salt, and 2 teaspoons of yeast. And here I am just adding it to a bread machine and putting it on the dough setting. All right, back to lunch. I realized that we had a pineapple that was ripe and needed eaten. We had planned on having this at Christmas breakfast, but it wasn't quite ripe at that time, so it is now, and we're just adding it to lunch. I don't love having a lot of separate gadgets for individual tasks, so I'm just using a regular chef knife to cut off the top and the bottom, slice off the outside, and trim the pineapple away from the core, and then I'll just chop it up. And then I will just set out all the things for the taco bowls. And we are on to dinner, and I am making some homemade pizza for dinner. Fresh milled sourdough pizza crust. I'm making it kind of quickly, so it's actually not going to rise and get very poofy. It'll be more of a flat bread tonight, but still delicious. The recipe for this will also soon be on the blog appletreeonthecorner.com if it's not there yet. To make the pizza dough, I simply take 1 cup of sourdough starter, a 1/2 cup lukewarm water, 2.5 cups of flour, and again, I am using fresh milled hard white wheat flour. I often like to measure the wheat berries and then have the flour go directly into my mixing bowl. Then I can make the exact amount of flour I need, and it's a lot less messy that way. So for 2.5 cups of flour, I would do 1 2/3 cup of hard white wheat berries. I also add a teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of instant yeast, and then I sprinkle Parmesan cheese and onion powder in for a delicious flavor to the pizza crust. I just cover the bowl and put it in a warm place. My oven has a bread proofing setting, so that's what I'm using. All right, back to my cinnamon rolls now. One of my daughters is rolling out the dough into a 12 by 16 roughly inch rectangle and sprinkling over the cinnamon and sugar mixture. It is about 1 cup of brown sugar and a couple tablespoons of ground cinnamon. To go with the pizza, I make just a quick salad and using the salad dressing I made earlier. And then back to just refreshing the kitchen, I'm adding butter. We have a couple sticks of butter sitting out at room temperature, so it's easy to use and spread. And here my cinnamon rolls are out of the oven, ready to go in the freezer to save for Sunday morning. Sunday morning, I'll make a quick glaze with powdered sugar and milk. All right, and then that night I started mixing together a couple batches of dough to make sourdough bread for the following day. One is 100% fresh milled whole wheat flour sourdough, and the other one is 60%. I like to make it both ways. This time I actually forgot to include the salt, and it was incredible how much it had no flavor without the salt. So we ate it, we spread jam or our own salt on our pieces, but yeah, next time. One thing I told a friend recently about sourdough is I find it incredibly easy when I'm making sourdough to make it. It just kind of becomes part of the routine. I don't have to think about it. But then when I take a break, it seems like it's incredibly hard to get back into making sourdough. And now I'm just cutting up a butternut squash, scooping out the seeds to put in a warm oven to have with dinner tonight. This day I did not follow my own advice about getting lunch ready, so we ended up making a couple of frozen pizzas, which I'm trying to not do so often. One of my daughters, however, the pizza was all gone before she got to lunch, and so she made her own fried rice with the leftover rice from our taco bowls yesterday. It looked way better than our pizzas. I probably should have just asked her to make enough of that for everybody and skipped the pizzas. Maybe next time. Not knowing that I didn't have salt in the bread, I am getting it ready to proof now. It had been rising all day, doing some stretch and folds throughout the day, and now I am just shaping it to put in my batten baskets for it to do the final proofing before I bake it. I am sprinkling the counter and the bread baskets with some cornmeal. I find that either rice flour or semolina prevents the dough from getting stuck in the batten basket, and there's nothing more discouraging than having gone through all the work of sourdough and having the bread not release from the basket. This was my first time to make wings. I sprinkled them with 1/8 of a teaspoon baking powder, lots of salt and pepper, and when they were finished, we tossed in our favorite barbecue sauce. I am just cutting up a little bit of broccoli that we will steam and have with our dinner tonight. We had wings, a fun special treat for the new year,
Squash.
broccoli, and the sourdough bread that again needed the salt, but it was still good. Everyone got fed, and we are on to the next year. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you next time.